Welcome back to the War Room. We are checking in once again with the great Dr. David Seifert with some college upkeep. We're going to do this a weekly deal. Where are we at? I'm going to press you with some of the shooter hunt dumb questions that Seif usually laughs at, which are really fascinating college stuff. It was a big weekend, Seif, in college baseball. New York Globe Life. I was actually flying home from Dallas Friday. And I was telling you before we got on the show, it was the perfect 4.5 hour flight to have streaming ESPN capability. I had my own personal command center in the air, which was outstanding. But welcome back to the show, Seif.
Well, thanks. Good to be back. Another good weekend of watching good prospects and a good atmosphere at Global Life.
And I was just trying to protect your nine the whole time. So I'm on that flight. I'm streaming. I think I went from the ACC to SEC. We'll talk about some Tyler Bremner. I got to check him out against Fresno State. About 2 weeks away from the Draftboard update right now. We're 3 weeks into the college season. Things are starting to come together. I want to ask you kind of a more vague question about the scouting process of, hey, these first 3 weeks, right? You saw these guys this summer, you go throughout the fall, you have your reports. These are kind of the follows. What are the key things you're looking for in the first 3 weeks for a hitter and for a pitcher?
I think you're looking at, okay, what did they do well, when you saw them in the fall, summer, previous looks. And then you're also thinking okay, well, when I did have that look, what did they need to improve? Was it just from up the breaking ball? Was it fastball command? Or was it, we'll talk about some more hitters. Did they make an adjustment at the plate to lay off the off speed? Are they more selective? Mm-hmm. What are they? What are the differences? I know we're only 10 to 13 games in the college season, depending on your team, but there are some things that are pretty evident already, and it's still a small sample size, but there have been some pleasant surprises.
Is it more of hey, anything loud either way? So it's that outlier of, hey, if this guy's been absolutely flawless, dominant on the mound, that's key. If he's been really bad and walking the house, hey, we need to note that. If he's lighting up at the plate or if he's striking out 80% of the times. If you're kind of in the middle, that doesn't matter much, right? You have a chance to continue to elevate.
Middle is also good if you're like a Dean Curley or an Iva Arquette, right? Yes. They're not middle, but what they did last year, they're already doing this year, right? They're consistent, right? They're not too hot, too cold, whatever. They're off to solid, strong starts, hitting 350, 400, which isn't way beyond what they are normally. They have similar exit velocities. They have similar launch angles. They're playing similar defense. They have tools. They have the projectile bodies, more Arquette than Curly, but there's still projection with Curly too. So you kind of get a little bit of everything. There's underperforming, performing, and overperforming. So the ones we get excited about are the overperformers. Mm-hmm. Those are hey man, look at this guy. He's rising already.
It's amazing the sprint versus marathon mindset of it, right? Those guys, the premier prospects who are on that sprint, oh, this is amazing. But I always feel those top, let's say the top 50 guys, you got to have that marathon. And I always think of Paul Skeens, right? You got to post, right? Mm-hmm. The guy comes out, oh, he's electric week 1. Week 2 comes back down to earth. It's so much about baseball is a marathon, not a sprint. So just continue to go out there and showcase that stuff. Seems to be paramount deal. And you talk about a guy like Curly, Arquette, they're going out there doing their thing. Haven't had their loud moment yet, but it feels like it's okay. They're just gearing up. The season's going along.
Right. Now I haven't broken down Curly yet. He's off against a strong start, but he looks the same guy, which is a first rounder, right? He was last year. He looked a future first rounder, and he's looking like a first rounder this year. But I did break down Arquette, and he's very similar. It's he has a similar launch angle. It's right around. It was right under 12 last year. It's right over 12 this year. Okay. Again, he only has maybe 40 balls in play or 35 balls in play so far this year, and usually in a full season you have over 200. So we're talking 15% of his sample size. His in zone swing rate is a little bit less this year than last, so he's being a little bit more patient. And I think the rest of his numbers read the same way. His walk rate is doubled already. It was 7 last year. It's 17 this year.
Wow.
Strikeout rate is similar. His max exit velocity is identical last year to this year. So again, it's a small sample size this year, but Arquette's definitely moving in the right direction. Just saying, hey, he's a little bit more selective. He only walked 7% of the time last year. and he's now 17%. So, there's a positive, although the rest of his numbers are, pretty much the same. And for him, you're banking on the body type, right? The tools are going to grow larger, the body's going to grow larger. And man, I just need to end up my Arquette. He plays shortstop. He's 6'5", 220, 6'4", 220, whatever. Oh, wow. He plays it so well. It is silky smooth. It's range. It's not like plus range every direction, but it's a little longer action because he is a longer body. But when he catches the ball to when he releases the ball is short, quick. Just you can't even blink and it's gone. And he just played the crap out of shortstop on a big league field. It was very impressive, his defense.
Ooh, Seif is tough on guys like that. Now, let me ask you about even more Arquette, because we're going to talk about some of these other shortstops. One, has he moved into 1-1 discussion? Is he up there right now?
I think for some he has, and certainly, and I think why he has is the projection. I mean, again, 6'5", 220, and he moves how he moves. Now, I never saw Troy Glaus play shortstop back in the day at UCLA, right? I was in college myself, I think then. I was busy pitching against Phil Nevin. I shared that story with some guys earlier, and they started laughing at me. But
thanks.
But and I never saw DJ LeMahieu, right? And he's Arquette's run comps as far as the defensive side there. So could Arquette play himself there? Certainly. Like the Beavers have a history too, right? Last season with Bazana, 2019 with Ruchman, they've got the pedigree there, right? So he certainly could play there. I don't know if he's there yet for me, but that's why I'm giving it the entire season. I mean, we're still sitting on our guy from Texas A&M, and we'll be there until we need to jump off.
And this is a pretty strong prep year from the shortstop aspect. So and we're not going to talk any of the prep guys because we're just kind of getting going here. We'll talk about them in a couple of weeks. It is really strong there, but it's fascinating to see Arquette. And Brett, if in the future, Brett the Jet, our producer back there, show some of those high school videos of Arquette, because Hawaiian kid, it was just kind of developing. What you're talking about, the frame, you've seen that progression these last 2-3 years to what you're saying now. He's 6'4", 220, whatever it may be. Even the shortstop aspect of it. So like he definitely sticks there.
From what I saw in a big league field for 3 games, without a doubt, yes. Now, does he put on 30, 40 pounds on that frame? And now he's all of a sudden he's got 70 raw juice instead of 60. Now you can better say, hey, go to third base. You can be a gold glover at third base because now you got 30 home run potential. But for me, there's no doubt if he stays similar actions, similar body movements, he's a shortstop in the big leagues.
And then this one, more recency, Jacob Wilson. If you're kind of that long frame, shortstop, hitter, whatever it may be, where would you put him on the Jacob Wilson scale?
Well, I think he as a draft prospect, and we were maybe 5 picks low in Wilson. He went about 5 picks higher than where we had him. And
underslot.
But for me, Arquette he's a better prospect at the same point in the career just because he's got the raw power. Wilson had the extreme great bat to ball. And he had everything else. He just did not. He had more 40, 50-ish raw power, where Arquette's 60 going on 70.
So like, I'm even thinking like a draft room, like those questions that you're asking, like where is he on the Jacob Wilson scale? Like, and now obviously you can kind of see revisionist history, what he's been able to do and start off a really nice career. Is that something you think that gets thrown out there? Like, but what about Wilson? Hey, should we take him at 1-1? Look what Arquette could be. He's even got a higher ceiling. He's got more impact. Do you think that's something guys will be talking about in the room, whether it's the Nationals or the teams coming behind them?
Oh, yeah. No, to say Arquette is 1-1, like, I am where I'm at, right? But when you actually get in draft room, it's the week before, it's early July, right? You're in the draft room, you're moving these guys around. Now you just have 175 more batted balls of data to sort through. What is their true power? What is a real plate discipline? But as far as starts, Arquette hasn't had the loudest start of everybody, but I still think he's sitting like just under 400. He's got some damage. He didn't do a lot of damage this weekend. I think he only had 1 hit between Friday and Saturday. He had 4 yesterday, but they're all singles, and 2 were actually bloopers, like ex-velocities in the 70s, right? That's not really going to play as you keep going on. But he did hammer He took a changeup away, down and away, hammered it through the 6 hole. So to his pull side, 105 miles per hour. Really impressive. There's not a lot of guys can hammer a changeup like that through their pull side.
For sure. We're going to keep following. As we've talked ad nauseum, we don't have to get into it. Like the Oregon State travel schedule is something I keep following. Yeah. Hopefully they're staying up with the recovery. I think it'd be nice for them to get home. I think it's happening this week. But let's talk about some more shortstops, right? The ever-coveted shortstop, find those premium athletes, a guy that I've been watching a ton of, and I'm curious about some of your breakdowns from a distance. But Merrick Houston, I actually saw his brother down in Florida, who is an uber-talented 2027 uncommitted kid, switch hitter. But Merrick Houston's off to a really good start. And then also talk about Gavin Keelan. We talked about Curley. Keelan's, I don't even think he's playing shortstop, but he has played shortstop in the past. Talk about those two guys.
Yeah, I think they got a tough situation there, Tennessee, right? They have 2 shortstops. Both are first-round prospects. Like, who do you play at shortstop, right? But Vitello and company, they always sort that stuff out. Their guys always maximize their value, deservedly so. So we'll go to Wake Forest first. We'll go to talk about Merrick. Again, I just kind of broke down his numbers. I have not seen him in person yet. I will do that here in a couple of weeks. But I'm kind of like, why does Merrick Houston have 7 home runs already, right? Like,
every ACC fan knows why.
Yeah, I mean, at Wake Forest, it plays small. They've played really nobody. They haven't really played much competition yet. But one thing that is noticeable with all that said, last year, Houston's his average launch angle is 8.1. And as we both know, that's like low line drive. That's like one hop ground ball to the right. That's all. Right. The field. What's that?
It's Jeter-esque. We're spraying the field there.
Yeah, exactly. So 8.1. So this year it's 13.5, right? So again, he only has maybe 40 balls in play compared to 200. So small sample size, but that's pretty significant. That's almost double. I mean, that's an 80% increase. That's just my wrong math right there. That's pretty significant. And the other thing, like, he might be being a little more patient, a little more selective. Last year he walked 14% of the time. This year he's at 19. His in zone swing percentage is down just from 62 to 57. So it's kind of negligible, right? Like it's gonna. But to me, the other thing, his max exit velocity. The biggest concern why Merrick Houston, he's probably a first rounder, but why he's not maybe a top half their first rounder. His max exit velocity last year was just under 105. That's like 30 raw power, right? It's hard to draft a guy, Nick Madrigal, with 30 raw power, right? Like Madrigal went with 6th or 8th overall. And he's a big leaguer and he's been productive enough, but like it's hard to draft a guy with 30 raw power in the top half of the first round, especially. Now, Houston is a special defender. I get all the other stuff. He does put the bat on the ball. I mean, he has a in-zone whiff rate of just 6.5. So he's going to put the bat on the ball. It's just how hard is he get hit. And then this year, even though he has 7 home runs, his max exit velocity is actually 103.7 so far. So it's actually less than it was last year. But he has 7 home runs. I think he only had like 9 last year. So it's like, how is he doing it? It's not smoke and mirrors. The guy's obviously better. He's made an adjustment, but it's probably a little bit selectivity and a lot, but he's changed his swing path a little bit. Maybe hitting it out front a little bit more when he's on the upswing. Maybe he's just constantly he's just trying to get under a little bit more, but he has done something. He's off to a great start.
What exit velocities are you looking for? Because I think I get skewed because all I see are LSU's Bear Jones exit velocities. So they're all 116, 117. So anybody who's not there, it's like, oh, this guy can't hit. But what are like the average exits where you're like, all right, this is piquing my attention?
Well, your average pro scale raw power exit velocity, and they use, obviously you're using an in-game exit velocity to determine the raw power, right? Now it's how many home runs you hit is your launch angle, right? How it's leaving the bat. But anyway, 109 to 111 is major league average. So, the low side average 109, the high side average 111. Then you go from there. A 55 raw is 112 miles per hour. 60s, 113, 114. So you just kind of go up. Your Bear Jones is 70, 75. Once you get to 118, 119, it's CAG's country, and you're at 80 raw, right? So just going on the bottom side of that. So if 109 is the bottom of average, then 108's a 45, 106, 107 is a 40, and now we're at 104, 105. That's kind of where Merrick Houston fits in with the 30 grade, the 35 grade raw power.
Okay. Because was random, but the analytics, Dalton Wentz was a freshman off to a really good start at Wake Forest, but like some of his exit velocities, it was like 91, 91, 93, 94, 95, 95, 97, 100, 103. And in the past, I would be like, oh, wow, 95 exit. But in my head, seeing what Bear Jones is doing, I'm like, is that a hard hit ball anymore? Is 95 a hard hit ball? Like, is that hard enough?
No,
So, like,
and the other thing to go along with that is a big thing that clubs use is the 90th percentile of your exit velocity. So they'll take the 90th percentile and they'll average them together. And like Merrick Houston is 100.9, which the difference between his max and his 90th is about right. Like usually there's 4 to 6 less in your 90th than your max. So his numbers jive, I guess. Some guys' numbers don't jive. His numbers do jive.
Okay. So, and then now I'm going to stay tuned. Maybe there's something up with the Wake balls that they're not jumping off as hard as the SEC balls. So, you know what? Seif, got my pencil. I'm going to note that down. I'm going to stay woke on that one.
5 years ago, you gave me that hot bat note about this time of the year, and now you're giving me the balls.
Well, so the balls have been under a lot of scrutiny recently. I will be curious. I'm going to start following the ACC exit velocities and see if I can figure something out.
I like the conspiracy side of shooter. This is good. I like this.
Well, I just want to keep on it. Although we're not going to talk about him here. Ethan Petrie, I got to watch this weekend. Like, I don't know what the exit velos are, but they seem really loud. So I'm locking in for you on Ethan Petrie because obviously I'm biased. I really like him.
Okay, let me give you this last year so you have some comparison here.
Okay, Petrie last year. We got the
Petrie
data.
last year. I want to say it was like 113-ish.
Oh,
I've done this before with him. Obviously I'm older now and I forget. So max was 114.
Okay.
And his 90th percentile was 108.9. So call it 109. So a difference of 5, which that jives. So there you go.
I'm driving the train right now. I still think he could probably play some third base, even though he's at first right now. We'll see what happens. But let's move over. We got to talk about Gavin Keelan because
yes, we do.
I don't know what they're doing. Like Tony and the rest of the staff over there, like they got Antigua, they got Manny Marin, they got Jay Abernathy, all these good dudes who could eat at shortstop who don't get a chance to. And Gavin Keelan was not affected. He steps in, looks like he's going to play shortstop, maybe push over guys over for the Astros because he hits nonstop tanks in Houston. What do we got in Gavin Keelan for you so far these first 3 weeks?
Man, I just saw it on TV. Obviously, I'm sitting there multitasking. I got my own control room, my control room, right, or my
brought you over to the dark side
command center, right. I'm back there in the suite behind home plate at Globe Life, and I'm watching the game. Trust me, but I'm also watching TrackMan. I'm also watching live stream from other places around the country, and I got locked in. Obviously, it's hard not to get locked in on Tennessee when they're just playing in general, but when they got so many prospects and Killing's so hot, you got to watch him. He had 2 homers on Friday, 2 more on Saturday, and he's just launching balls. So I started breaking down the numbers in him, like, what is the difference? Like we've talked about on this before, and I've written many times in the past, like I think their strength and conditioning program is second to none, absolutely without a doubt. Like, I mean, I'm even thinking to myself, in another year or two, Tennessee will probably have enough fuel. They don't have to pay anybody NIL money. Like they're going to like, come here. You're going to make your money in bonus money because we're going to make you bigger, faster, stronger. And it's going to be right there for you. Right. Like, I don't know if that's possible, but you talked about Marin and all the other shortstops they have, but like, all right, Curley's gone. Keelan's gone, right? Fisher's gone. There's 3 infield, not at first, second, short, and third. And there's their spots, right? Now they got 1 to 2 years to perform, get bigger, stronger, faster, and bam, there they go. There's that cycle, right? Like, I don't know, you just make money by going Tennessee. They might not have to pay you anything. So anyway, back to Mr.
Well, go back to Keelan because I'll go from the high school aspect of it. Like we loved them in high school. Wisconsin shortstops, all they seem to do is produce. So all the Midwest guys are going to love Gavin Keelan coming out. Oh, what's the loudest? What's the carrying tool? There were some question marks. All of a sudden he throws on a Vols uniform and it's like he's a new kid. There's some swagger to it. You've talked about the production, which only adds to what you like already.
Yeah, like I said, first and foremost, like there's just the strength training, right? We knew that going in that he'd benefit. Like it's an amazing place for that. So I think he's just stronger, but then the numbers don't really point to that. Like if you look at what his max exit velocity last year was 111. So that's the high side of average, right? 111. And again, that's 200 batted balls. This year it's only 108. He has what, 7 home runs or ridiculous number of home runs against good competition in major league parks, right? It's only 108. Now his 90th percentile exit velocity is 106. So there's just a gap of 2. So like he is squaring everything up, right? Like he is max. So it's going to go down. That difference will go down a little bit. But with him, his walk rate last year wasn't atrocious. And I think that's why maybe he wasn't as high as he could have been on our list, but he was only walking 2.5% of the time. Like 10% is kind of what you like want. Like, okay, 10%, that's good. He was 2.6. Now his strikeout rate was only 9.4. So that's like excellent. That's excellent. 9.4 strikeout rate. So he was more of an early count bat to ball hitter, right?
Yeah.
Well, this year I think he's changed a little bit his approach, right? Like he's seen a few more pitches, a little more selective, and the numbers do point to that. Like he is walking more, 25% of the time already this year.
I mean, 13 walks against 2 strikeouts.
Right. He's only striking out 3.8% of the time. So obviously those numbers you're not going to maintain those numbers, but there's a drastic improvement from a 2.6 walk and a 9.4 K to a 25% walk rate and a 3.8 K, right? So I think he's just IDing the pitches. Like he's a little more selective and he's just maturing as a hitter. He's using all the information that Tennessee has there for him. And he's just knowing what he can hit, what he can drive, what he should be swinging at, whether it's early, late, or wherever in the count. But he's just maturing as a hitter in addition to himself, to him getting stronger. He's still not swinging and missing. Last year, his end zone whiff rate, balls that were strikes that he swung through, was only 7%, which is ridiculous low. That's like a easy 95th percentile. I don't know that for a fact, but that's you don't see that. This year, it's doubled. It's 15.8. So he's swinging at strikes. He's just missing them twice as often, but it doesn't really matter in the end because in the end is the damage he's doing and everything else he's doing. So, it's just I think it's just a combination of things.
So let me press. Does he have a first round potential? Is he like a back half type?
Without a doubt. Yeah, I think and again, I hate to get too overreacted. We had him top of the second. We had him low comp, top of 2.
Yeah.
Right. That's where we had him. And I think that's what he was. And I'm not saying I'm this great veteran scout, but I've been doing this for 30 years. Right. So one thing I have learned is don't get too down on a slow start. Don't get too sky high on this type of start because he's not going to hit 500, right? He's just not going to have those stats in the end. I mean, he's going to have great stats. He's off to a great start, but let's not just put him up there in 1-1 discussion or even top 10 overall discussion. We may need to do that in the 7 or 8 more weeks. If he's still popping it out of the zone.
What's the old saying is everybody's got a plan until they see an SEC slider, right? That's
yeah. Now, like we've talked about before, though, too, the SEC strike zone is smaller than other strike zones, so he's got that going for him, and he's off to a great start. There's nothing to be disappointed. It's all excitement, but I'm not going to sit here and jump up and down and move him up by a list to number 1 or number 5 on our college board just because of 3 weeks.
You know what I'm looking at here, and I'm not that they were assuming anything. This St. Bonaventure series, that's not Cupcake City. Like Woj and the AD and the Bonnies, they bring some heat. So like the Vols will see that kid's throwing 100. I think it's Silva at St. Bonaventure.
Selena's throwing 101, 102. Yeah.
So like kind of a good warm-up series before they'll go into SEC play. Florida, let's see, they go Florida, Alabama.
I will be there. I'll be at the Florida series. I got my already got my hotels for that one, Shooter.
There you go. Although Pierce Capola came off the mound. Sounds like it was a
blister, I heard.
A blister for him, but I was like, oh no, because obviously Jersey kid, trying to root for him a little bit down there. The Vols lineup though, I'm just looking at the stat lines and almost all of them are 2-1 walk the strikeout, which they are basically saying we're going to grind you down. And the next guy, if I'm not going to eat here, the next guy's going to eat. Seems like just a full Wolfpack mentality for those guys. Any other shortstops or guys that really caught your eye here early on these first 3 weeks?
Yeah, obviously I just spent 3 games with Arquette, Killen, Houston. Those are the top shortstops. The only other shortstop we have up the board, we talked about Curley a little bit. He's off to a strong start. And then Aloy from Arkansas, we talked about him a little bit last week, but he's still going strong too. So what started as typically a weakness in the college crop every year is shortstop, up the middle, tooled up guys. But man, there's 5, 6 of them that are looking like first rounders here after the first 3 weeks.
I gotta tell you, I think you and I discussed, Aloy's the one that I've been able to catch a bunch. And I think coming off last year where you'd see the swing, he just swings so hard. And I think of as a pitcher, hey, can't make a mistake here. This guy's going to make me pay at all times. And his defense has gotten better. Something about Hawaii right now. The Islands are just churning the guys out. Big year for Hawaii. What about a couple catchers that you have on here? Now you got a chance to see Ike Irish with Auburn, who had a nice weekend there at Globe Life. What did you have from Ike Irish?
Man, Ike Irish, I just think what I saw, I like when the guy hits the ball and he hits it off, and it's not like when he hits it, right? He's not swinging this guy, but he's just strong, and the ball jumps off his bat and it gets through the infield. When I first started scouting, in my head, I was like, yeah, raw power is how far you can hit it, right? Or how hard you're hitting it, mostly how far. But then a really good scout, he trained me. He said, look at how many hard ground balls or how many ground ball base hits that they hit that get through. That's another sign of raw power. And Ike does it all. Ike can hit it the opposite way, 400 feet. He can pull side it 425 feet. He hits hard ground balls through the infield that guys just aren't quick enough to get. To me, he's just a slugger. I mean, he's a slugger that has bat to ball. I really like his bat. And I didn't know he could run. He actually tripled to left center. I actually tweeted about it, had some nice likes or whatever. But the guy's moving from first to third on his triple. He was moving on out. He wasn't like a plus runner, but he wasn't this slow clogging catcher. He was a 45, 50 runner away. And his body control and slide was so-so, but he popped up. But it was good. It was a really good look. 3 games behind the plate. He's been playing a little right field in the midweek. Okay. And I saw that in the stream. I wasn't real enthused by his routes and his reactions from what I saw in the stream in right field. So I was kind of like, whatever. But behind the plate, blocking is well ahead of everything. He smothers, soft block, redirects right there in front of the plate. So the blocking, he passed no problem. Arm strength, 50, 55, but it's a 2-1, 2-1-5 putt because he'll catch it, stand up, and then throw. He's not staying in his legs. So he's got a little bit to progress there, or a lot bit, however you – I'm not a catching coach, but I know what I see. The thing I really wasn't all thrilled with was his receiving. Now, it wasn't bad, but he's not the guy that's going to steal that borderline pitch on the frame. At this point, it's when he did it, I'm watching what I'm seeing at the game. I'm right behind the plate. I see what he didn't do. So I want to see where was that pitch. So I'll get on the track, man, see the strike zone. And I love the player, right? To me, he's a first rounder, no doubt. Yeah. But there were so many times where that pitch was right on the border, and a couple times where it was in the trackman strike zone, and he moved his glove the wrong way. He wasn't feathering it in. He was letting it go away, and the umpire called the ball. And it was because of the catcher. It wasn't any other reason. And there were other times. Now, this wasn't so much his fault, but he'd have an accurate pitcher, like who they threw on. Their first pitcher on Friday was a really good high pitchability right-hander. Sorry for my break here. Dutton. Dutton was just, hitting his mitt. But then they brought in some relievers that weren't hitting the mid, and then Irish started catching it more in the webbing and not the pocket, right? So his receiving, I guess bottom line, I'll stop rambling here, but just bottom line is his receiving has a ways to go. It's come a long ways, but still has a ways to go. His blocking's first. He's got enough arm strength to make the adjustment. And overall, I kind of am going to compare him to Kyle Schwarber back in the day. Schwarber went 4th overall in 2014 maybe, which was seen as an overdraft at the time, right? Because Schwarber was probably more of a 10 to 12 guy.
He had good vibes, though.
Yeah, but I mean, real hitters, right? So Ike is hitter over everything, but I think Ike has definitely a better chance to stay behind the dish than Schwarber. And Schwarber went 4th overall, and it's looked like a good pick in the end because he has produced to that type of pick. I don't think Irish goes 4th overall, but for me, he's a first rounder. If you think he can catch, top 10. If you don't, 15, 20.
It's in there. Let's compare him to Luke Stevenson, who kind of started off slow, warming up. What differentials there? What are you hearing on Stevenson? What do you see?
Stevenson, for me, no doubt he stays behind the plate. It's a plus arm. It's going to be plus receive if it's not already. Like, he's a catcher. He's scooping the low pitch, bringing it back into the zone. He's feathering around. Like, he does everything you want a guy back there to do. You know, he's athletic, and at the plate, he has plus power himself. He's not getting to it as often as Irish, but I have no doubt that Stevenson's going to hit. He's going to hit with some power. Stevenson's the more complete catcher. Without a doubt, he stays back there. So for me, he still has more draft value than Irish.
Let's see I'll pull up his stats real quick. Luke Stevenson, 14 walks, 12 strikeouts. He's hitting like right around 300, 3 home runs. I think he had 2 this weekend. So probably warming up to that. I think I want to say they're heading into ACC play this weekend. They have Stanford going. Oh, we'll actually have a good Stanford stream, not to make this the Stanford.
It's an away stream.
It was an RBI baseball stream this weekend. I was like, I almost want to write a letter to the president of the school. Like, this is tarnishing the great Stanford name. Like, I actually knocked them down a peg in my world university rankings because of their baseball stream.
Yeah, I don't know. Do they realize they literally use graphics from like the 80s, like early 80s, like you said?
I was trying to figure out, and I was like, is somebody just like having some fun here? Because it's like, this is Stanford University, and we can do this every week, just how bad that is between them and Cal with the incredibly bad streams. Whereas the Big West has amazing streams. Got to watch UL against Irvine this weekend. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk a little about some arms because Oh, go ahead.
No, I say I'm not trying to outdo you here. I'm just older, but like you said, RBI baseball graphics. I'm going back Atari 2600 graphics. So I got you about 10, 15 years. But like,
Rhett, I might have to get you to pull up the actual image because I was like, this is almost comical because like somebody's having fun with this. And like I was like, maybe it's satire. They're like doing a satire. Maybe the joke's on me. But
moving along. Pitchers, yes.
Because I am on the flight home. Finally got a chance to watch Jamie Arnold now. Really waiting for ACC. Like, right, these starters, these top 10 potential picks have to post. Right, it's a yearly deal. You have to post, so it's going to be a marathon over a sprint for these guys. But getting a chance to see Jamie Arnold, but also Tyler Brenner, got to watch both those guys. I actually thought Fresno State did a great job all weekend. I think they lost 2 out of 3 to UCSB, but they took some really good at bats. Jamie Arnold blew me away. Now, I guess I had not locked in enough, and all you've been saying is that it should blow you away, and everybody's saying Jamie Arnold. But to watch how easily he pounded the strike zone with the fastball, with the slider, with the changeup, how quickly he worked. I've noted it in our sheet here, just like it was like he had a date. Some place was closing at 9:00. I have to get to that. That's how quickly he was working. So shout out to Micah, whoever's calling the pitches, because they get it into him quickly, which you're essentially playing a video game with how easily he repeats, how easily the strikes are. To me, the one thing I wanted to ask you, I put down this note here, everything was lower quad. So like both sides, like he's working glove side into the right-hand hitters. Has he shown elevation in the past? Just because I was thinking in my head, I'm no hitter, but I would just be swinging to location. Like I am just going to keyhole this spot here. He's going to come down and in, whether it's the slider, it's going to slide into my barrel, or the fastball. I'm just curious if he'll start to elevate that throughout ACC play and show the ability to move the fastball around the zone.
Every time I've seen him in the past, he has. I saw him at Wake Forest last year. I saw him this past fall. Florida State traveled to Alabama. So yeah, I mean, in the past, yes, every time I've seen him, that's part of his arsenal. Yeah, very effective.
It was electric. So like just how easy it came out of the hands, swinging his fastball, his ability to move things, just the operation. And he's a guy who did that in the past in high school, got a tons of swing and misses with less velo. Now he's got more. You can just sense the moxie of, hey, I know I'm the best out there, which was really fun to see. I'm looking forward to seeing ACC play as well.
Yeah, and now we're on the topic of lefties with electric live stuff. And, you know, Arnold should go in the top 5 overall, right? He keeps doing what he's doing. He's top 5 overall pick. Liam Doyle from Tennessee is not that same guy. Liam Doyle, if you just watch him throw, it's very relieverish. It's max effort. It's great stuff, but you just wonder if he can consistently repeat it against polished hitters, right? Like he's control over command. But if you want to talk about a live fastball, if there's one guy to go watch next week, just watch the movement up in the zone of his fastball. Some guys is just kind of like, the fastball doesn't rise, right? It can't, but his fastball looks like it rises. It's better than Hader's. It's amazing, but it's also cutting and running and just doing amazing other stuffs. That's really a word there, Shooter. Other things. He is striking out 69% of the hitters that he faces. That is a crazy, crazy number. But it's because of the fastball. And he'll mix in an average slider, but his fastball is amazing. And he is another one I was watching this weekend when I was watching Tennessee, while I was watching games live at Global Life. But man, I have never seen a fastball with that much life. It's crazy.
It'll be interesting. I'm looking. He's 34 strikeouts in 14 innings against just 3 walks. He was actually a New Hampshire kid. I can still remember the first time he came to an event, the video watching and being like, I love how this kid moves. I love the arm. And then following him from that day, he was kind of a slower recruited kid in New England, ends up at Coastal, goes to he's been on the full tour. But now at Tennessee, that's going to be a fun Friday night because what is it? An unstoppable force and an immovable object going against a Florida lineup that, I mean, those kids just crave fastballs. And it's going to be power on power for those guys.
I don't know if they've seen a fastball like this. It may take them a time through the lineup, but man, just incredible action on his heater. And it's up to 98, 99 miles per hour too. So it's not like this 90, 92 buzzing your chin in your letters. It's moving. It's moving on out.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Tyler Bremner, because top right-handed arm guy, kind of expected a top 10, came out in that 3rd inning, back to work. This was actually this weekend his best outing of the year. 3rd outing, 7 innings. The results were really good. It was the first time I had locked in on each inning. It wasn't really command of the fastball. Now up to 96, probably touched 97 in the outing, but it was more control over command, if you will. A lot of changeups. I didn't realize that the changeup was that good. Went right on right with it. That was kind of the pitch. Breaking ball every now and then landed, but it was not like pinpoint electric. It was electric, but like it was not pinpoint. And when you're talking about one of those top 5 picks, this is a starting profile. Like, I don't know if that's what he showed in this outing. Now, again, he just got built up his first 7 innings. He's got a full slate to deal with, but this is a tough. It was not underwhelming, but it was not, hey, this guy's going 1-1. I guess that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the year, what I saw last summer for the USA CNT, you talked about his changeup, right? In the summer, it was a 70 pitch. He could actually move his pinky, right? So he could arm side it or he could glove side it. He could make it fade or run, cut, whatever, in either direction. So it was really 2 pitches, right? It was like slider life or tailing fastball life, just 12 miles per hour slower, right? With the same arm speed. It was devastating. It was a 70 grade pitch. And he also had a 70 grade sweeper, from the slot. It's more sweeper than slider, call it whatever you want, but it's a sweeper. And then he's buzzing the fastball, 97, touched a 98, but he's sitting 97, 98, touching 99, excuse me. That's in the summer. I watched the first 3 innings of the live stream this past Friday as well. Going 7, like you said, but it's just not the same guy. It's not the same pinpoint crisp command. It's not the same 2 different change-ups. It's not the hard sweeper. It's a good sweeper. It's still at least average, if not above average, but he's just not repeating it maybe as well. So I think the best is yet to come with him. Even if he stays as is, he's still a guy you're gonna take pretty tall, top 30 pick guy. But I think we were just expecting him just to pick right off and be better than he was this summer, which that's really hard to do. It's really hard to do.
Let me ask you about that and like the importance of that summer look, but also of that sophomore year look, right? Like, hey, this is good stuff. And I'm thinking like Chase Dollander, right? It has done great in professional baseball, kind of had not the mega junior year, right? Skeens comes in, he kind of sifts. All of a sudden, if you're looking at a guy like Bremner, to me, it's like I'm picked 7, 8, 9. I don't want this guy to kill it. Like, this becomes better for us if we put in that scouting aspect of the summer and the sophomore year. And I always look at it too, like this guy's at UCSB. Those dudes just do unreal work. They go on the pro ball. He's got essentially with the pinky shift, the seam shift, whatever it may be, it's like 6, 7 pitches that he throws for strikes. That guy's going to explode. And we're going to sit here and say like, no, he's really got to post week 7 against Cal Poly. Like that's something that I'm thinking about. How does that, your summer look go into like, oh, he's off to a slow start here? How do you balance that?
I don't think you can forget at any time what you've seen, right? Like you're not going to. If you go see a kid strike out 4 times, right, you're not going to forget that. If you see a kid homer 4 times, you're not going to forget that either. That's just certainly not what he is. You know, he's not a 4 home run a game guy or 4 strikeout. But with Bremner, I think his summer look is very important because he did what he did. He was 97, 98, touching 99 with 5 pitches. You know, all those grades are accurate. I wasn't just the only one sitting there thinking that, right? Like we were all like, holy cow, what is this? So I think that gives you an idea of what he was, what he can be. And you brought up Skeens, and I hate to compare the two, but it's logical because Bremner could still go 1-1. I mean, like it could all come back to what he was, and he could go out there and do it for 6-7 innings. You're like, oh my gosh, like what do we have here? But in the summer, he was better than Skeens, and Skeens is an animal. But when Skeens was a sophomore, now he changes his whole routine by going from Air Force to LSU, right, where you're not training.
Yeah.
Militarily, 6-8 hours a day, then trying to do baseball, right? You're going to LSU, you're going to school, and you're doing baseball, right? So there's difference in that. But for me, Bremner, you saw what you saw. He can still be that plus even better. Just think if Bremner's better than what I saw for the USA C&T. And he could still be there. It's just been 3 weeks. Now, if he's healthy and everything else, he's got to do all that. But I haven't lost any faith in Bremner. I would not move him down. I think we had him second or third in the colleges. It's 3 weeks. I'm not moving him. I'm not reactive like that.
Water will find its level, right?
Right. Just best scouting director. I work for a couple of scouting directors, but the best scouting director, he's one of the best in the history. He told me, he goes, just get him right in the end, right? Get him right on draft day or, when we're setting up boards, get him right in the end. And that's what we aim to do. I'm not going to bounce around the guy just because he's, just because he's hot or he's not the third week of the season.
I still love the mound presence. I'm looking forward to tracking him the rest of the season. Looking forward to doing this each week, though, Seif. Just kind of getting on board. What did we see? Command center, just checking in on some draft stuff. But in the end, as always, it is a marathon, not a sprint. Seif, I really appreciate you hopping on here, getting after it. We were both in Dallas. We're both back home right now for a little bit. So what's next on your horizon?
This week, I'm gonna take I won't take the weekend off. I'll be streaming and following the home command center. I'm going to focus on Wake Forest. We talked about Merrick Houston, but Lunsford's tearing it up as their Friday night guy. He's a 6-foot right-hander, but his ball does funny things too. Just amazing. Yeah, so I'm going to sit them and work on them. And then, as you mentioned, I'm going to bear down Stanford's at UNC. So I'm going to bear down on kind of some ACC series there. But after that, what's that?
A little HD video there in Chapel Hill.
Yes, for sure. So I'll be taking care of that, and then 2 weeks I'm going to head out. Florida's at Tennessee for the opening weekend of the SEC. I'll be at Lindsey Nelson bearing down.
Awesome stuff. Well, for all you listening, I got the hat on. I got a hoodie working. Be sure to check out shop.prepbaseball.com for all your goods. I actually have an awesome St. Patty's Day prep baseball shirt that we'll be rocking next week and the following week. So be sure to look for that. This has been another great episode of the War Room with some college action. Until next time, we'll see you at the ballpark.